Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you here today, and I certainly want to thank the New Mexico crew for all their efforts hosting this meeting. Having just done that last year, I understand the time and effort to make all that happen, so we appreciate their hospitality. And as Stan would say, it's a great day to be a cowboy, and whenever we can spend a couple days talking about reproduction is really exciting for me. So hope you can enjoy that as well. My focus today really is on timeliness, and I hope that you're getting in your mind how important it is for timely actions. And I come from a family where timeliness was not always, I'm not sure how to describe it. It wasn't a priority, or it just didn't happen. If they rang the bell at church before the Johnson family was there, that was usual, and if we showed up and they hadn't rang the church bell yet, they were worried that something, they were behind. So I come from a somewhat slow background, but as we talk today, we're going to share some tools that will help you be more timely in applying these technologies. And I need to acknowledge Garland Dahlke, who's really the computer brain, the tech person that really has made all this possible, and we're just fortunate to have his skills and interest in what we're doing, as well as the help really of Daryl Strobing with some of this early work with the Synchronization Planner, and really some of the efforts that he put towards getting our group together to doing some of these things. So sometimes timeliness is not very important, and other times, might be important. And as these dinosaurs are on this island watching Noah sail away, they're thinking, maybe it should have been a little more timely. Dr. Smith shared with you a number of characteristics of the estrus cycle that talked about timing of follicular waves, timing of estrus, all those things. And Dr. Patterson has essentially showed you how we try to incorporate what we know about the physiology of the estrus cycle into these various synchronization protocols to make something successful for you to use. So on top of the cycling, the characteristics of the estrus cycle that have varying timings to them, we're also dealing with an annual production schedule. Our forages and resources, we can think of their availability changing with our seasons in an annual calendar. The gestation length within some breed variation, 280 some days. Those are things that we can't change. We need to work within that. And that gives us 80 some days then to get this cow cycling again before we can get her bred to keep on this annual cycle. So again, timing is important to making reproduction happen, and in a cost-effective manner. If the cow conceives later in the breeding season, calf is lighter weight, lower return to the producer. So that is very important. So the tools that I want to talk about today are two. One is the estrus synchronization planner, and the other is a management minder. The estrus synchronization planner we now have for you in 3 different forms. What I'm going to call our standard planner that maybe you've seen. We also have a mobile version, and then what we have just released is what we're calling the multi-group edition, which will allow you to put essentially multiple groups of animals on one calendar. And then the management minder is something that we have worked on the last few years, and just getting that out there as well. And when I think about herds that I've worked with where there's a reproductive failure, often where they should have changed things to get better results would be to make sure those cows had adequate nutrition in late gestation to allow for that weight gain. And what happens is either they don't change that ration soon enough for the quality of feed they have, or they don't change it at all, and these cows just don't have the condition at breeding calving to maintain it through breeding. So the management minder really has been developed with that whole idea of making sure you remember when that third trimester starts. I call it the most underappreciated day in the cow's physiological year. So we've seen this kind of recipe sheet that Dr. Patterson just showed you, and hopefully you have seen in various semen catalogs. What we need to do now is make sure we apply that correctly. And as we look at an example here then, showing this 14-day protocol, what we want to make sure is that you get the right thing done on the right day, as well as the right products are administered on the correct timing. So the synchronization planner, think of that as putting that on a calendar for you to use to keep you on track. Now, where can you get the synchronization planner? It is housed on the Iowa Beef Center website. You can Google Sync Planner. I have the link here. It's in your proceedings. Our beefrepro.info page will also take you to that site. If you are at the Iowa Beef Center and look for software or tools, you will also find it, a free download. And the site looks something like this. Now you do register for this when you download it, and the reason we want you to register and give us your email address is so that when we have updates, then we send you a notice of that update. Now sometimes I'm concerned about email and whether it gets to everybody, and so if in doubt, come back to this site and look for the version number and the most recent version. And right now, the version number I think is 18.3, and you want to use that most recent version. Sometimes we find little glitches. If it's a major problem, then they'll work very hard to get that word out to you. But you find it there. There's also some additional helps and short video blurbs there on downloading it, using it, just depending on what your skills are. Okay, so let's look at the synchronization planner. This is the overview of the main page. It's an Excel-based program. And on those bottom type tabs, you see that you probably can't see the text there, but we're at the Planner Worksheet tab, and that's where you start your work. And essentially, if we just look at the overview of this, let's see if I can use this pen. You know, we're going to edit these values right here. Essentially, think of these as some questions. We edit those values, and in my case, usually I'm doing that quickly, and then I want to come over here and look at how that fits on the calendar. And in this particular example, I have us injecting prostaglandin on this very date, and we'd say, no, we can't do that because we're going to be at this meeting learning lots of things. And whether it's we're going to have help home on those days, you can quickly see whether or not that might work on the calendar initially. Now, let's look at this a little bit more closely then to use this. This is a closer shot of the input section. We select the breed type, either Bos indicus or Bos tars, and then if you notice, our synchronization, our recommended protocol sheets are divided into 3 categories: estrus AI with cleanup timed AI, and then strict fixed timed AI. And so you would indicate which of those systems. Then you would select a protocol, and I'll follow up on that a little bit more. And a key thing is the day you would start breeding. And each of these little red triangles here represent some type of help or information. And then, so a key one for the day you want to start breeding, if you're doing heat detection only, the day you're going to start breeding is the first day that you're willing to heat detect. And then on the other side, if you're doing fixed timed AI, that's going to be the day that you do fixed timed AI. So that's a key input in there. And then in the case of fixed timed AI, you're going to indicate the time of day that you want to start fixed timed AI. Now, as I mentioned, when you select a system type, 1, 2, or 3, fixed timed AI to estrus AI, what it changes in the program down here is these recommended protocols that match the protocol sheets. And so right now I have selected fixed timed AI for the type of system, but the synchronization protocol number I have is number 6, which is not a choice for either the cows or heifer protocol. So it sends me this warning message to look at that. And so that is our guidance to direct you to those recommended protocols. Now, below this we have less preferred systems, and what we have not done today is really reviewed all the data we have on why we got to these recommended protocols. But suffice it to say that what we have recommended try to minimize those handling and costs, as Dave mentioned, and optimal results. There's lots of things that you can do that may be almost as close results, but maybe there's an extra step. We really encourage you to focus on these recommended protocols. So once we establish the type of protocol, the dates, and the time, I want to highlight then on this calendar page, it shows us the protocol that we have selected. You can also indicate what type of products you're going to use. That we can select GnRH products and prostaglandin products so that it prints out here to help you, again, to make sure to get the right product on the right day. It's a very common mistake to switch those around. And so we're really trying to help with that. And it shows then the day we're going to start breeding. You can indicate when you want to turn in cleanup bulls, and it also indicates the approximate start of calving. It gives you the prostaglandin injection time. Again, this would be for a fixed timed AI system, and then a time period for which you want to complete that fixed timed AI. And so again, hopefully on this page, it gives you the guidance to get the right things done on the right days. I also suggest once you have that product on hand for the various, for your protocols, if it's a GnRH product or prostaglandin, put a little sticky note on it with the date that it's going to be used. Again, something to help overcome any of those mistakes of somebody sent to the house to get X, Y, or Z, and they don't get the right stuff and nobody notices right away. So whatever help you can get there, I would encourage you to use. Now, another thing that you can do within the synchronization planner, and I'm just kind of highlighting some summary here, it does calculate some costs for you, and you can compare costs between different protocols, and I'm just kind of showing the summary of that on the top of this page. This is on the printout tab that it shows up, and it also looks at the cost for an AI pregnancy. And if you're thinking about using estrus detection, it's important to understand what the cost of poor estrus response or poor estrus detection might have on your cost and outcome. And this is a good place to look at that. And I think perhaps as various people are consulting producers on first-time use of AI, if you're an AI technician, this is a good way to help discuss, well, what if we don't get as good a job with heat detection, and how does that impact our costs? All right, the estrus synchronization planner is also in a mobile version. You could use your computer right now, go to estrussync.com. It's not an app per se, so you don't download it on your phone, which means you do have to have your cell connection in order to use it. The reason that we have chosen to go that way, one, it's really a challenge to keep up with some of the software updates in phones and what that requires in order to make an app work functionally for a long period of time. And secondly, as we update the planner, this allows it to keep it updated more easily. Cliff Lamb worked with a Southeast group to put this together, and essentially it has all the same type of questions in a little drop-down boxes. You hit this little arrow, choose the breed type, choose the age, asks you for a number of head to calculate a cost, when you want to start breeding, time of day, method, so estrus AI to fixed time day AI. So all those things are there. So you input the herd information, you go to the next tab where you select the system, and again, based on the insemination type you tell it, it's going to give you a short list. And then it gives you, on the third tab, will give you the results. You can email that information back to yourself. It's just in text form, not a calendar. The way I often like to use this is if I'm in the field having a quick discussion, either is that timing right, and I might check it on the phone, or if we're just making some preliminary plans, particularly with some of these longer protocols, we can look at the dates there and get a starting point, but generally I like to go back to the planner and get it back on, when I say go back to the planner, go back to the desktop version, the Excel version, so we can print out that nice calendar to be very clear about what we're doing. Okay, I want to move on now to our latest addition in the toolbox, and that is what we're calling the multi-group edition. And so this is aimed for those that they might breed 100 heifers every day for a couple weeks, or maybe you have cows, heifers, 2-year-olds, and you want to get those all on one calendar. And so this multi-group edition is designed to do that. Again, it's at the Iowa Beef Center under their software, or this Estrus Sync address shown there. Now the difference is this will, it requires a number of macros to be enabled in order for it to use. So it'll be very important prior to using this program, if you have not used the Iowa Beef Center Nutrition Brands program, you need to go through and enable these macros in order to run the program. So you follow those steps, and again, we have some additional places where you can do that. But you must, that'll be step 1. And the look of this program is much similar to the initial one. The difference being then, as you input a producer name, essentially what the program is going to do is create a little subfolder with the producer's name, and under that subfolder then will be these different protocols for each group. So our first step, we would hit the new producer button, type in a name, and save that producer name. And then we come down to the lower portion and essentially fill in very similar, same inputs, but the difference would be now we're going to identify that group of animals in some fashion. It might be pin 14, it might be crossbred heifers, purebred heifers, whatever is meaningful. You input that there. You also indicate a number, because we do have some additional calculations that we use that for. And then we have, again, the dates to start breeding and the time of insemination. I failed to point it out on the other version, but a lot of people want to know what that expected calving date is. And you can check that right over here on this output portion, when that expected calving date should begin based on the date you put to start breeding there. All right, so if you can see from these inputs, then we would fill that out, and then we're going to hit the save button, and then we would fill out the next plan for that particular producer for however many plans. I think right now we can handle up to 6 different groups, and then it essentially numbers these plans. And as you have to come back and edit those, then you can use this tab that says, essentially scrolls through those plans to allow you to look at them. So the calendar tab then in the multi-group edition gives you a page that looks somewhat like this. I've tried to zoom in on some of this to help you see some of the things that are there. I can change the font color to help differentiate between my two groups of heifers here. I've actually changed the size and the color, and that may be useful to you as you print that out. The unfortunate thing is you don't really save those font colors with the plan, so you would have to redo that unless you save this. When you ask it to print, you print it to a PDF, and save that PDF would allow you to come back and do that. If what you have set up has a couple activities occurring close together, the program uses this gold orangey shade to show that on the particular calendar to draw your attention to, make sure this will still work. Right now in the program, it is putting a time down for when to insert the seeder, and generally we're not worried if you insert the seeder at 8 in the morning or 1 in the afternoon, and so I'm trying to get that timeliness portion removed on the seeder insertion day, but right now that may show up on a conflict if you look at this right now, but it's probably not going to be a real conflict, particularly on a 14-day seeder, what time of day you put that in. So that's what that output calendar would look like. Our plan is probably to add, there's 2 months that will show up here. We're working on trying to add more calendar months that might help you with a longer, bigger groups. Other different types of programs might need that longer program, and we're working on the print function of that, and we hope that we'll have something with that soon, but we thought we wanted to go ahead and get it out, get the program out in front of this group in particular, try it out, see how you like it, and some other changes we might make. The other portion then that this multi-group edition does is it generates a supply list, and so based on the number of heads you put in and the different products that you indicate, it tells you how many doses that you would need and totals those. You can input your cost here and figure a total cost. And you can also list semen costs there if that's appropriate for this type of interaction. So we hope this works really well for technicians, those breeding multiple groups of animals, and again, give us your feedback as you try it out. So we've been focused on the few weeks of the breeding season. Now I want to shift to thinking about this year-long timing, where timing of weight gain, doing things like regular body condition score to make sure the cows are getting the proper nutrition that we want them to have, timely vaccinations to promote good health. All those things are important. And the tool that we've developed to help is called the Management Minder, and really it's designed to be your personal assistant to help you with a checklist. I was listening something to the other day about the importance of checklists to like pilots. I was really hoping my pilot went through their checklist before we took off to get here, early in the morning. Is he awake? And for both the medical profession and pilots, they've relied on these checklists to help improve safety. And it's a tool I think we can use as well to make sure things that might become routine to us don't slip by under our radar because of all the things that are going on. And I tend to really notice this. I've do a number of projects with a former student, and this student was top of their class, and so we'll be talking about something and there'll be a question and I'm like, you know this, you got an A on that test, I remember, but with the busyness of life and everything that's going on, sometimes some of the things we've learned and we know we should remember don't happen. So that's what this is designed to do, is be your personal assistant to keep you on track. And essentially, once we decide, depending on how you want to look at it, when you breed or when you calve, that sets a lot of other things in your schedule. And so from an extension standpoint, we're often providing recommendations. This time of year, be thinking about this. But as we have more and more people that are calving different times of year, it's hard to do those recommendations. So this essentially makes those recommendations key to your operation. And so there's some things that are based on the timing of breeding, others when your grass is ready, and when you wean. And essentially that puts it on a calendar and allows you to have reminders either come up on your computer or your smartphone of whatever those reminders were that you built for yourself. You can print it out in a calendar form like this, reminding you to check weight on those replacement heifers. Are they really doing performing like we want them to? Do we have everything we need for calving? Are all those things in place? This is just trying to look at some of the things that are there in a list form. Anything from checking calving supplies, starting evening feeding. In Kansas, we would have controlled burns to help with pasture management, ordering semen and products. Has anybody ever planned to work cows or calves and found we don't have enough gloves, needles, something we thought we did? Wouldn't it be nice if we were thinking about that while we were in town or when we had a trip to town? And that's what this is designed to do. It's not rocket science. It's really trying to make you a little checklist to keep things in front of you so that when life gets really busy, you're able to check on this for that help. So the program is a management minder. It's housed at the Iowa Beef Center. I find it easy to tell people to use ksubeef.org/management minder, or again under those software and tools at the Iowa Beef Center. This is the opening page. You're going to create an account. You can share this with your veterinarian. They could set up the health protocol for you. Other members of your team can log in. We'll have an opportunity in the lab tomorrow afternoon to look at this more closely, and again we have little video versions to help you work through this. So we talked about different versions of the estrus synchronization planner, the general one, the smartphone version or kind of a handheld version, as well as the new multi-sync version. Again, interested in your feedback, particularly on the multi-group edition as we look at refining that. And then the other tool is the management minder, trying to create a production calendar for your operation that fits the timing of your calving, your weaning season, so those recommendations are very timely to your operation. Now, we don't want you to be a person with frustrations. If you're working with these programs and have some questions, please contact either Garland or myself. If it's really techy, of course, I just have Garland answering because he's the technology brain. But be happy to visit with you more about those programs when we can look at them in action. And again, please encourage you to use these. Right product, right day, and right time is very critical to your success. So with that, I appreciate your attention and turn it back to you.